Ah,
Hi, we did it.
we did it. Okay, awesome. We're gonna get started.
Okay.
Oh, everybody. So, welcome to Career Crises in 10. So, this is interviews with people who have navigated some difficult times, whether it be through a recession, a layoff, career changes, and even pandemics. So, this is the first of many in this live series where we are going to interview people who have navigated some tough and tricky times and can show you how it's done. So, I'm here today with Humera Fasihuddin to learn about her career crises. So, I'm going to kick it off with the opening question. Humera, so how was the economy and how was the job industry when you were graduating college?
Yeah, thanks, Tara, for having me. I can tell you, okay, I thought long and hard, do I reveal this? I graduated in 1992, and it was the Bush years. We had just declared war on Iraq, and we were in Kuwait, and um, uh, we, the economy was terrible. So I graduated in the dead of a recession and with a math degree. And I also had some, like life stuff, right? I didn't want to move back home and have to answer to my parents because they wanted me to have an arranged marriage and all this other stuff. So I needed to break it out on my own, and I decided I would stay in the Pioneer Valley in Western Massachusetts, close to Smith College, where I graduated, and I would try to find a job somehow. And it was really hard to make ends meet. I
Mm-hmm.
did everything under the sun. I worked in a little grocery store. I worked in a little bakery, baking bagels at 5 a.m. in the morning. I got my big break when I, I bought a car, and that allowed me to get out of the college town and drive a little bit farther away. It seemed really daunting at first, $200 a month for car payment, but
Mm-hmm.
I did it. And I I was a Kelly girl. Now, Kelly Temp Agency is is something that allowed me to like sell vacuum cleaners and BJ's for a week, to working for small nonprofits, filing. I worked for Jane Yolen for a couple of days, organizing some books for that author's extensive library. Um, I did a lot of things under the sun. And then one day I found this manufacturing company that had the most like menial work possible. They had these advertisement inserts that came back from a professional printer, and they needed to go into boxes of colored transparency film. And and, and of the 5,000 sheets, maybe 2,500 of them were defective. But they needed someone to go through all of them and say, this one is not defective. This one is defective. And that person was me. And that was like really mindless work.
Yeah.
And I did it for days until one day, the head of that manufacturing operation, that mill, she was this kick-ass woman, graduated with a biology degree from Mount Holyoke College. And she came over and said, wait a second, you have a math degree? You should come over and work with my quality control people and look at the statistics for why our machines are, you know, going down, like having downtime. So I would produce
Mm-hmm.
these statistics and these charts that would allow their manufacturing team to operate more effectively. And that was the start of a 7-year career at that firm. I stayed a temp for a while, but then they hired me, and they ultimately paid for my MBA. And I got laid off from there twice. So it wasn't all hearts and flowers, because the recession and different changes, like a lot of manufacturing was leaving for China around that time. But that was some really tricky times. I had to work multiple jobs and make ends meet and have very difficult conversations with my parents around all those choices for how to make ends meet.
Mm-hmm. So going off of that, how did you navigate that mentally? Both with, all right, you got this degree, but there's no like job prospect, and then also having those conversations with family.
Yeah, that was really hard. Um, I majored in math because it was a practical degree, and my parents really wanted me to major in something STEM. And so I didn't, when I was majoring in it, I didn't see a clear path to what I was going to do. And so I didn't know how to use it. Um, I knew that business and finance, though, was something I was attracted to. So to find a big company, even if it was like starting at the bottom rung, I knew that I could work hard, have the right attitude, and that it could potentially be a big break. So I almost had to I had to lose sight of like, oh, that big corporate job that's going to make me really happy in the short run in order to like invest time into making a name for myself doing stuff that I necessarily wouldn't have imagined, like building out Excel spreadsheets and databases of information and supporting my boss's presentations. I would make all kinds of beautiful PowerPoint presentations for meetings with customers. And I used that time to explore what strengths I didn't know I had, but I could cultivate and really serve the people who needed things with whatever they needed. And that really helped set the way to like advancement at that company. Um, Conversations with my parents were really tricky. They had paid for my college outright because they had invested all their money in land, and they didn't qualify for any financial aid. So they paid for 4 years of a college education from a private school entirely, you know, out of pocket. There were semesters where I would get notices from the registrar saying they couldn't enroll me again. So it was really like touch and go for semester after semester. But I I was grateful, but by the end, when I wasn't producing the job that they wanted to see, it was really hard. It was really hard to say to them, I don't want to move back home. It was hard to say that I'm going to join this company that you've never heard of. So like brand name was really important to them. And I had to prove to them that I could make ends meet and that advancement was happening, and the company paying for my MBA helped, but that took many years of time. So it was hard, and it took a lot of patience and recognizing that I know this isn't the choice that you would have, made for me, but trust me, it's going to be okay. And knowing in my heart that it was going to be okay. So
Mm-hmm.
part of it is having faith that it's going to be okay, right? And even when you might be doubting yourself and the choices that you're making.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing with us today, Humera.
Appreciate it. Thank
So,
you for having me.
last question
Yeah.
up is just what is like the one thing that you would say to yourself back then when you were going through it to kind of give you that beacon of light to keep going?
I would say that even if your next step for that job that feels right, even if it doesn't make sense or you don't see a direct connection between that job and that dream job or that ultimate career that you want, there is a link. And looking back, it'll be so clear that one job gave you the ability to talk with people, and another job gave you the ability to really dig into numbers and you will amass these skills along the way. It doesn't matter if it's a minimum wage job or if it's a great starting salary. You're going to be able to draw a connection between all of the experiences. And the other thing I would say is you might have a job but really want this other job, and even though you you might be tempted to like just jump or to spend time doing that other thing, do your first job really well. make your supervisor incredibly happy. Show them that you can do your job and you will get the privilege um, of being of having the freedom to explore those other possibilities. If you don't do your first job well, no one's going to give you a chance on those other things. So do that
Mm-hmm.
first thing really well, and those other things will come. Also, don't burn any bridges, and always
Yes.
be kind and respectful to that person that that's supervising you or you're working with, because things will always come back. Um, Things will always come back in some way, shape, or form. So always be respectful and kind, and don't burn your bridges.
Thank you, Humera.
You're welcome.
That is great. I think we'll have to interview you again on the next 10-minute episode. But to our viewers, if you have an interesting story that you would love to share, just shoot us a message. We'd love to connect with you. And then don't forget to subscribe. We're going to try to do this daily, get like a daily dose of career wisdom or career crisis wisdom. So you can check us out on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Thank you all for tuning in today. Bye, guys.